Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome to the stream. Dylan's got random audio pumping out of his
Yeah.
PC like some kind of unprofessional schlub from Utah.
Yeah, absolutely. We do it different out here. We have siestas and it's very it's very calm.
Well, hello. Neophyte Studios, as always. Matthew Gordon and Dylan Davis are here. We're playing
Yep.
Resident Evil 7. And before we jump into it, I want to remind everyone our game jam is wrapping up. And what's the date it's wrapping up,
Uh
Dylan? Over on
man,
itch.io, the narrative
don't
game
remind
jam.
me. I still have so much well, I mean, I still have a lot of work to do. I
Yeah.
think it wraps up on the 15th, 14th, 14th.
So
So I think
May
the yep
14th is when this one's wrapping up. This is our third game jam?
is our third game jam.
Third
Yeah.
game jam.
And it's
So that's
easily
over
our
on.
most populated. I mean, we're almost up to 70
Yeah.
people now.
That's amazing. So if anyone is watching this in the future, watching this shortly after it goes up or watching it today, uh, check out us over on itch.io, Neophyte Studios. Check out our narrative game jam. You're going to see amazing stuff. We've really cultivated a wonderful community, and I'm proud of
Yes, we
each
have.
and every one of you.
Including two Lanks who just came in and said end of 14. Thank you for keeping organized. You are absolutely the you are the engine of the train and I am the food cart.
With that wonderful analogy, let's hop into Resident Evil, which I am so excited to be playing on stream today.
Yeah, it's
Even
cool.
this intro movie, so let's shut up. So this is going to be relatively spoiler free. We're starting at the beginning.
But the forest greeted them with a dark, cold silence, the bushes empty. Yet determined to find the berries, the rascal broke free from Mother's grasp and vanished into the trees. Mother's worried cries faded fast as the girl ran on, over vine and under branch, and into the forest deep. Feeling strange eyes upon her, the girl recalled Mother's scary bedtime tales, and her throat became bone dry. Then the Bat Lord appeared. He greeted her warmly and bit his own wing. Come, child,
Jesus, this
quench
animation.
your thirst, he said.
Isn't it
So
incredible?
she drank the thick, dark blood and smiled with joy. Passing through the graveyard, menacing storm clouds loomed, and the air turned bitingly cold. The girl was shivering in her thin clothes. Then a dark weaver appeared, and with a click of his fingers, crafted mist into a beautiful dress. Come, child, warm yourself, he coaxed. So she clothed herself and smiled with joy. Across waters deep and ominous she went, hoping a boat she found would carry her home. But hunger's grip tightened and her heart grew heavy. Then the Fish King appeared and offered one of his many fins. Come, child, eat your fill. So the girl ate and smiled with joy once more. Continuing on, she soon entered the forest's dark heart. Then an iron steed appeared, bearing a beautiful golden gear. The creature said nothing as the girl approached and snatched what she thought was another gift. The horse grew angry and summoned the other monsters. Terror filled the girl's heart as the wild wind rose around the beasts. Suddenly, a witch appeared, dark yet regal. Gifts we gave, but more you took, she snarled. So more return his due. In a blink, the girl was trapped inside a mirror. There. She's asleep.
What is with the creepy story? She's only 6 months old.
The woman at the store said
It's
it
an
was
interesting
tradition.
fairy tale opening.
A local tale.
And we're going to talk about openings and we're going to talk about prologues. Don't you worry.
Because she doesn't understand it. Thank God. We moved here so
Let's
she
I'm
wouldn't
gonna
have to
turn
deal
this
with
fan
it,
away so
remember?
it's not
There's nothing wrong
catching
with
my
my memory.
microphone.
You're just being paranoid.
It's not. Never mind. I'm sorry. I'm not paranoid. I'm just cautious.
Pen, go cautiously take your daughter to bed. We'll finish dinner.
So dialogue and voice acting, which are absolutely stellar aside,
Yeah.
because we could talk an entire stream just about
There were
the
things I want to remember. I can't blame her.
just about that. Let's talk a little bit about prologues. We talk a lot about
Nothing. I'll put
the
her down.
beginnings of stories here, just the way the stream's set up. It's always been
Mhm.
convenient for us to usually start at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
But rarely have we encountered a prologue with such like vision, right?
Yeah. Right. I mean, it was like some insane production value on that animation.
And so your novel that you're working on, does it have a prologue at all?
No, actually. And the reason why it didn't was because I
Mhm.
tried to write it with a prologue, but it made it it slowed the book down too much.
Slowed the
Prologues
book
are a
down.
very interesting and a very tricky thing.
They are.
Where because you can use a prologue for many, many different things. Like you can use a prologue as like a promise, where
Mhm.
like if your story doesn't start super quick, you can
Like this.
can
This
yeah,
is not what
right.
I would call super quick for playing a game like Resident Evil.
Yeah, right. So when you know that the beginning of your story is not going to be pretty eventful or super eventful right at the beginning, you can
No?
make a
Maybe later.
promise, right? And that's where you see the
Don't
like
get too close to me when
like it's really famous in like those murder detective shows where like
Right.
they show the murder take place, and then like
Mhm.
this is promising that something exciting is going to happen, right? And then they kind of jump back to something else.
Yeah.
Procedural work, people talking in offices, that stuff that's not particularly, I mean, it's interesting, but it's not like riveting,
I just
but
want
that's
to cut
one
in really
problem.
quick. February 1st, 2021, that just what happened when did we get here? That's so surreal to see in writing and be like, oh yeah, that was just last month.
Yeah, it wasn't long ago.
Her birthday will be here before
And it's
we
her
know it.
half birthday, which is a strange
Mhm.
detail.
Let's just enjoy what
But
we
yeah,
can.
so then another thing that you can do with a prologue
Leah
is
makes
you
everything
can
by
use
hand,
it
so this stuff
to
keeps piling up.
very quickly set setting, scene, tone. Like you can
Right.
explain a lot about the world real quick because it's not considered part of the narrative world, right? If you
Right.
want to
And
separate it.
so, this isn't too much of a spoiler, but this isn't the main game, right? We are
Right.
still in part of the prologue. The prologue has it's its own story. It has 3
Yeah.
acts, in my opinion, and right now we're in Act 2 of the prologue.
Mm-hmm.
So that opening story, you get context to the world. That's the mythology of the place. That's a place that's not, it's a European story, but it's not something we've ever heard. It's a little creepier than something
Right.
that might even survive today.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and it's also, I mean, it's a fable,
Yeah.
right? Like
It's
I
a
think
fable,
that
right.
they clearly established that this narrative is going to be a fable of some sort. Like it's going to have a heavy-handed
Right.
moral theme, which is fine, but it's probably
Yeah.
going to have a pretty heavy-handed moral theme to it. It's going to center around, like because it's kind of almost a metaphor for the narrative. Like I'm imagining, I could
Right,
be wrong about this,
right.
but I'm imagining that that the protagonist will probably take one too many things,
Mm-hmm.
or has done.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to kind of see the prologue play out in the narrative.
Or at the very least, they'll cycle and see some strange characters in a dark forest. Like,
right.
right?
Yeah, right.
Like, in marketing aside, it really does set that up. And similar to how there's a big trend just in popular fiction of these sort of like revisionist histories really popular right now, and dark adaptations of fairy tales and fantasy. It's really popular last decade, taking stories reinterpreting them for a modern generation, and this is doing it with a fictional in-universe story. So it's
Right.
doing a very modern thing out the gate.
Right.
And real quick, let's talk about intuitive design, interactive design. So there's been these prompts. I was told by my wife, take our daughter to bed. I've
Right.
been wandering around our house. I've been able to look at different things, get a really, I mean, this is just a beautiful little set, little space that was designed of their
Yeah.
home.
Mhm.
Tons and tons of character detail. You can see how the child's place in their life has converted this space. You
Yeah.
flip on the TV and it's children's programming, like it's
Right. Right.
doing so much work to establish our relationship. And there was a conflict between Ethan and his wife over this story. So
Yeah.
you have like every aspect of storytelling and game design hitting you in like 2 seconds. And
Right.
as you
Right.
said, this is still prologue, so it's slow, but even just the ability to open and close a drawer like this is training for later in the game.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you just toss one of those in there so the player knows that to look out for it later, like that it's a possibility, right?
Right.
It's like I
Yeah.
said to your
No, it
mom.
makes sense. It is quite
And
quaint, Toaster Strudel. You're right. It is. It's quite
it
quaint in this
is.
house.
And with intuitive design, like it's something that's really popular and something I consider a lot when I work with VR. What's kind of like the natural behavior of a person in a space, right?
Yeah.
And setting up actions and abilities that fit within that, right? If there's a disc in a disk drive, the player's gonna put the disc in the disk drive.
Mom and I
If there's a drawer with an icon, they're gonna want to open the drawer and see what's in there because they just want to rifle through stuff, right? There's a
Right.
icon on the music box. I want to see what that does, and they
Right.
put it right. It essentially has a freaking spotlight on it, right next to an archway, which you're gonna walk down. This thing has a spotlight next to it.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, they clearly are trying to draw your attention to it.
Yeah, and this design, this flow of this space is so organic, and the lighting does such a good job. Everything. I've been gushing about this game to everyone who will listen
I should get married someday.
because they just nail everything. And so this back room, it's disheveled, it's creepy. You can see how they changed the lighting, and
Right.
I have ray tracing on, and this is the news story, the public version of what happened in Resident Evil 7. So lots of irony there, and then you get a commentary
Okay.
from the main character. Like, this is an absolute masterclass of storytelling, which is
Yeah.
why I was really, really psyched to have this featured today. So let's move along though.
It's
Let's get
very
to the
impressive.
let's get to the dramatic climax of the opening and get into the main game.
Did the game force you to like pat the baby when you were walking up the stairs?
Yes, when I walked
Okay.
up the stairs, that was scripted. It stopped for a second, took
Okay.
control away from me, and I responded to the child.
Right. Okay. So that's yeah. I'm just tracking that because I'm assuming. I mean, it seems unlikely that they would just throw that in there for no reason. So.
Right. To me, it's just a little moment of showing you what's important, where a player might not stop to look at the child, but you're playing a character. You're not just playing yourself.
Right. Well, and like I mean, so in typical scenes, like in typical scene structure, when you really start writing scenes like all the time to the point where it's like second nature when you're writing scenes, you
Yeah.
tend to
Stay like this forever.
funnel. Like you tend to just naturally move to set up the back end mechanics of storytelling along with the front end mechanics of like the like the visual world, right? So like
Yeah.
it's not out of the. It wouldn't surprise me if they had written that staircase to be the emotional turn of the scene, because you can't find your wife, by the way, and
Yeah.
you choose to walk up the stairs and you pat your daughter. Like it's a forced moment, which is probably an emotional turn for the scene. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but that's my guess.
I think it definitely serves that function, and so upstairs, right? It's downstairs is pretty quaint. Upstairs, you're finding little bits of extra information if you are going out of your way searching. Again, training your player how to interact with your environment. I saw the old news article of what happened. Here is a doctor's report. So Resident Evil 7, it was a bioweapon that was fungus based. So you went to search for your wife, Mia. You found her, shit went down, and in the end, you got her out of there. And this is you guys trying to start a new life.
Right.
And so you are very concerned about your child. You know, what has this affected her? Does she have the pathogen? Because it's what made the Texas Chainsaw 2 family in Resident Evil 7 become what they were. So very concerned. So here's a hospital report that you get if you search. And on the laptop back here, here's just a little bit of a journal entry: strained relationship, concern about the
how they're
child.
fighting and stuff. See, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, so at the beginning we get this little teeny introduction of conflict where they disagree about the story, and then
Oh, and there just flashed up, just to interrupt you, he said, you know, we shouldn't keep your mother waiting. She gets scary when she's angry.
Right, yeah, so that's weird. And then I've noticed a stark change in the house, right? So like right at the emotional turn of what I thought was the emotional turn, the upstairs is vastly different from downstairs. The upstairs is like kind of creepy. They have a room that's just full of shit, and like it's not
darker.
Finished,
It's
and
not
a lot
that
darker,
yellow, soft, right? You go back into the bedroom and it's yellow, and we'll talk about intuitive design then. This door wasn't open, but when it is, you've got the laptop, the glow of the laptop. Like, you're following light. For a horror game, you're following the light to feel safe, to be drawn through a space. It's absolutely incredible environmental storytelling. So I got her, and I'm running back downstairs, gonna have dinner.
Yeah, I'd be mad at my spouse too. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop looking at the TV. Let's go. Stop opening
Stop
that
looking
drawer.
through all of our drawers.
Go, come back. It's dinner time.
I like a baby. That smells good.
Okay, so now we're back.
Hands off, mister.
You know, and that classic horror thing of like the character with their back to you. It's just
Wow.
it's always
Right.
scary.
Any
Jesus,
sort of
that's super
unease.
Local wine, too.
Doesn't it?
But if
No,
you're
I've got a 2060 in my system. I've got a pretty good CPU, so we're running with things looking pretty nice. You should see all the lighting settings and the particle effects, the god rays, and the
Moving us here.
ray tracing. It really transforms things. But I'll shut up.
Lucky Archer, I do not think this is Matt's first time playing. No, it's my first time playing, but it's not Matt's.
everything's gonna be
Seriously? Think
I'm a bit into the game, maybe 6 hours.
I don't understand why you are so.
Mia, get down. Mia!
Jesus,
Right?
this took a fucking.
Talk about using a first-person POV.
Mia. Oh, God. Chris? What the hell?
Sorry.
No! What? Why?
In case you forgot what we were doing. And there you have it, Act 3 of the prologue.
Yeah, right. That's Got to tell you, that was that was unexpected. That was not how I thought that was gonna go.
Right.
All clear. Rose? What the hell you doing with my daughter?
Package secure, sir.
Do you imagine if you wrote a story like that?
Get your hands off her!
in MFA Workshop.
No.
Yep.
It's like, and then the wife got blown away by Chris Redfield.
Right. And so you were talking about that moment on the stairs, right? You've got concern for your daughter on the couch, but it's more so an issue with your wife. On the stairs, you stop and you have that moment, and here it pays off.
Right, and then you go up and you kind of get a closer look into their kind of weird, strained relationship.
Mm-hmm. You get
Also
all
very-
the context of their relationship, and it exits. Because that's not what the
Yeah.
game's about. This is the prologue.
Yeah, it's just like
And here it is
Getting-
about the test results. When he's passed out, what does Ethan Carter dream about? His anxiety about his daughter's health and what happened in Resident Evil 7.
Hey now, think positively, all right? We talked about this.
I know. I hardly talk about anything else. I keep telling you, it's not Rose that I'm worried about.
Well, then what are you worried about? Look, she's gonna be fine. I just know it. What else matters?
We matter, Ethan! You matter! Just
Mia, what are you talking about? Is there something you're not telling me? Come on, talk to me. Damn it. I have to take this.
Again, just brilliant script writing for a game
Yeah.
that was originally, written in Japanese and translated.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
how dare you? Yes, I know, work. And it's like, yeah, they could have gone with something else, but isn't that how you have it saved in your phone, Lucky Archer? That's how I had it saved in my phone before I lost my job.
Jesus.
Oh, and look at that motivation of how it affected his dream.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of like when an alarm clock goes off and suddenly there's an alarm in your room.
Right.
And Rose.
Yeah, I hate that. I fucking blow those things up in my dreams and they still go.
Fuck.
So, waking up in an unfamiliar place.
What happened to you?
I thought it was interesting that they framed the shot so that you could clearly see his wedding ring.
I know. I noticed that exact same thing.
I mean,
So-
that's like an important note, right? Like, that's a
Right,
very big
after all
character
this, he still
objectibility.
has his ring. Right.
Well, and that they're, that the writer took the time to say, okay, so while he's taking this unauthorized call with some mysterious people, he's looking at his wedding ring, right? Like, that's,
Yeah.
he could have been looking at anything. He could have looked at a tree, dead body, his foot, like anything. But they chose
And
to
let's
have
talk about
his hand
lighting
bathed in
again and
light.
intuitive design. So we're telling an environmental story here. I'm in shit shape. This is as fast as I can walk, and this is what the camera looks like, bobbing up and down. Breathing
Yeah.
heavy, I'm rough, I'm trying to find my way, and I'm trying to navigate this space. And here's something I'm not sure I love about Resident Evil 8, but the flashlight points at the ground.
Points at the ground, yeah. I mean, it makes
You,
sense.
if you want to see straight ahead, you need to be looking almost skyward, right? This is where I'm comfortable. This would give me a good, clear vision of my surroundings.
Right.
But
think
I don't
about
get
how
that.
you actually hold a flashlight.
Right.
Like,
Right.
when
You
I'm
would
walking in
point it at
woods
the
holding a
ground in front of
flashlight,
you.
I point it directly at my feet, basically, so I know where I'm walking.
Precisely. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. You are at 110% correct.
That's where I would hold it. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's inconvenient and
It
for
is.
a game, but it is. They've used it to effect.
So here
I don't
it
think
is.
it's accidental. Is what I mean.
No. And it bothered me at first, and then I was like, no, that exacerbates the horror. So we're talking about horror stories. So here is the transgression. I have nowhere to go, but it also teaches me how to crouch. And that slow movement, there's our first injury, right? You transgress and you immediately pay the consequences.
Why can't he just adjust how he holds it depending on context? Yeah, I mean that would be the appropriate way to do it.
So we got
But
falling
horror games
rocks,
famously love to
unmotivated
just
falling rocks.
screw with your ability to see anything. That's how they get a ton of their.
Right, I was
horror.
playing this the other day, and my buddy told me, he's like, so you're playing Resident Evil, and I'm like, yeah, but some of the controls are a little tough, and the flashlight's at a weird place. Is like, good, right? Horror games can use ludic elements to make it tough,
Oh, they
right?
do it
To
better
have
than
a
anything.
bad time, right?
do it better than
Horror
anything.
games are like the superior form of the medium because they can build discomfort, and here's a massive dead crows.
Yep. It is a massive Dead Crows. I mean, just think about like Resident Evil 2, like the old one, like the
Yep.
PlayStation 1 version. I mean, that game is so fucking clunky. It is so hard to play. It's so hard to aim. It's so hard to walk. You're constant, like the camera is like stationary. You're fighting with it all the time. Like that's classic Resident Evil, and they do that
It is.
completely on purpose.
Yeah, and those fixed camera angles and the tank controls, and I
Oh,
feel
that
like
one's
they
long.
really converted it to first person the best they could. And I mean, it's different. I've not played much first person horror that's any good. Amnesia and stuff come to mind, but those are just
Phasmophobia.
Phasmophobia. I just saw something run away. We're getting these little glimpses of the unknown stalker, the unknown
Yeah,
threat
that wasn't fun.
as we're walking through here. And it got all misty, and here we are on a creepy bridge that we can't really... Right, the game is constantly asking you, make these intimidating decisions, and there's
Right.
no other path forward. And what's behind you is worse.
Right. Well, and if you think about it from a narrative perspective, like it has a somewhat dreamlike quality. I mean, this is almost like
Oh
Journey
my
into the Heart of
god,
Darkness type
very
thing.
much, very much.
And when I mean dream, I mean like kind of like how what Pinckney talks about with dream narratives, where you kind of just drift from like it was not that long ago that you were stumbling out of a prison car and there was a dead like super soldier next to you with a
Right,
weird
and it
phone with
makes
weird
sense
language on
that then it would start with a fable, a story tale like that.
it.
It's it does have a surreal Alice in Wonderland quality, and I don't know how far we'll get today, but when you meet the antagonists of the game, they are very much like the Queen of Hearts multiplied 5 times over, right? And they're
Right.
also a horrific threat. This really is stumbling into a fairy tale.
Right. Yeah, I mean you're walking through a dark forest, right? Like and there's no other way. It's a tunnel. Like you're
And
just
if you've
walking
played a
through
lot of
dark
Resident
tunnel.
Evil, here's the first sign that something's wrong. What would normally be your first green herb, just
Yeah,
a
is
shriveled
dead.
dead plant.
Yeah.
Uh,
Toaster Schroeder says, I must admit that I've never liked that about horror games, at least conceptually. I understand the power of it, but having constant tunnel vision drives me insane, but that's more a me thing.
well,
Yeah,
here, look
I
at
mean,
this room. Okay, I need to walk into this room with my flashlight. This is all I can see. But I
Right.
have to choose. I have to act just like any good protagonist to go forward.
See, but this is to me what, like, this is why I think horror is best on games. Like,
Objectively.
it just is.
Objectively.
It's the one thing that just, it just doesn't work in other things. Whereas, like, in games, the fact that you have to do it is
Yep.
it's too much. It turns like a very benign scene in a horror movie into like an awful decision in a game.
And see, look what I just walked into.
Yeah.
See, I'm a huge Evil Dead fan, and I know better, but don't really have a choice. And these tight corners as well, going into straight blackness. Like, okay, now we're getting some things. We've got moldy, rotten food in the basement for some reason. And okay, here's a detail I haven't seen anyone notice that I want to talk about here because this is my platform. God damn it! This game is constantly filled with little cracks like this in wooden buildings, in furniture, blood-soaked clothes hanging up. Can't interact with it, can't get in. I'll point it out when we see the next one, but there's lots of houses with broken boards that you can just see one disturbing peak of something through it, and that's it. And that is my favorite thing this game does.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, right? It's kind of like the denial of the monster, where you constantly are not allowing the audience to quite see it, right? Because the imagination is just always going to be better. It's always going to be better than if they just had a bunch of bloody clothes. It would just kind of look like a pile of pixels that doesn't look super great. But
yeah, and on a game mechanic level, you're able to interact with your environment, you're able to open things, manipulate things. It's just as important, if not more important, to show you what you are incapable of doing as a player.
Yeah.
That you are not in control of this environment, even when you have 60 bullets on you.
Also, this dude is totally loony. Like, there's no way I would have gone into this place. There's not a chance.
Right, without a doubt. And that's why we're playing a protagonist, not any sensible person. So, okay, down the dark hall, I want to take your bet, Dylan. Is the scary thing in the cupboard? No? Why do you say that before we go for it?
It's never in the cupboard. It's always behind you after the cupboard.
Okay. So far, so good. You ready for me to turn around?
Yep, and then there's probably going to be nothing, and then you're going to turn around again, and then it's in the cupboard. It was a trick question all along.
How was that?
Okay, yeah. It makes sense.
Not even the scary thing. They're drawing it out. Look at this tension. Look at this suspense.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's too cheap now. You can't just have the scary thing in the closet. That went out.
No. Why not draw it out as much as you can? I will turn around and it's not there.
Deer head new?
The deer head was up on the little side. So yes, see how the environment changed. There was a little stuffed fox over here, and the deer head was like right here.
That's probably an objective correlative that we could analyze, but let's move on.
The deer head? I wonder. Okay.
Deer head falling? Yeah. I mean, why else draw attention to it?
Here's a great ludic piece, right? We learned how to crouch down. We're trapped. We are trapped. We're scared. The only way through is under, in an incredibly compromised position through the blood.
Right.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at this perspective. When you're waiting for the thing that just shook the goddamn house.
Right.
And what was that out of the corner of your eye? That is right. It was a hole in the wall.
What did all this?
That's pretty cool. God, this game looks so cool. I just wish I wasn't such a pansy.
I will level with you. A lot of the horror dissipates, and we were chatting about this before. A lot of the horror dissipates after a while once Ethan really starts to get mangled and he just bounces back from it. It gets a little schlocky and it gets more fun. But this opening, and there's a level later that I'm told that is really ramping up the horror and pretty low on combat. Okay, look at this reveal. Look at that. I was telling a friend of mine the other day, this is on par with like a Dark Souls, Bloodborne map.
I mean, we
reveal.
100% went down the Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole. Like,
I mean, literally. We literally
completely.
climbed through the hole twice. We went there and back, and now... But we've got the windmill in the distance, what looks like a factory. We've got the town in the little valley.
And the
castle.
gigantic, like, the gigantic storybook castle. Like,
Specifically mirroring what was in the storybook.
right.
Because when, whatever, the little girl reached the end, there was a castle in the distance. So,
All right.
no way
So
forward but
we're
through.
gonna recap here a little bit.
Let's recap. Let's do it.
Okay. So, because that's pretty significant. I mean, like, we've now officially had the point of no return for our protagonist. Well, the point of no
I
return
would
for our
say it was
protagonist-
literally right here. I would say sliding down this hill is the point of no return. Physically.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was
And
also
it takes
thinking,
control away from you. It's a cutscene. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're
I just
fine.
get
I would say
excited
that
about this.
The narrative point of no return is probably the wife getting murdered and then you getting captured, right? Which makes sense
Sure,
because it's a horror
sure.
narrative. So, like, I guess
Yeah.
I can talk a little bit today about the difference between a hero narrative and a horror narrative. But
Oh
in a
my
hero
god, I
narrative-
think I have my notes right here.
Oh, good.
I
In
have
a
my
hero
sheet
narrative-
on horror.
Oh, great. In a hero narrative, the protagonist goes on a quest, right? That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
They do it I mean, a lot of the time they're thrust into it, especially because they deny the quest from the quest giver. But ultimately, they're the ones that go on the quest, right? In a
Right.
horror narrative, the quest comes to the protagonist. There's no way about it, right?
That's
And
the very first of many major differences.
those are the major. That's the first
Yeah.
major difference. And so Chris Redfield showing up and shooting your wife is
Someone
the
you
story
thought was an
coming
ally, for
Right.
people who have the irony of the game. It also works if you don't know the game. I
Right.
do just want to point out mangled horse, creepy cages.
Yeah, of course.
Creepy cages.
But yeah, so the story comes to the quest comes to the protagonist whether they like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So with that as our setup, we know that we're in a horror story. Obviously, it's called Resident Evil, but it's good that they're sticking to that same structure. So then, to recap the rest of the story, because like a lot has happened in about 20 minutes.
Oh
I mean,
my
we've
god!
gone from
Yeah.
like holding the daughter of the protagonist and reading her a fucking creepy bedtime story,
Mm-hmm.
to now we're in a magical castle land,
Mm-hmm.
and it's super creepy. So, talk about efficiency, but I'm just trying to kind of nail down, like, why are we here? Why?
Why are
why
we
is-
here?
Why is
This
Ethan here?
character. Yeah. Well, do you want to take a guess? Because I've got
Some
my
info, I'm
theories.
assuming?
Yeah. I've got some info, and I also have theories.
Okay, cool. So if I'm just taking just a bold guess in the dark.
Did you see that body just get
Oh
dragged?
no, I didn't. I did not see it.
Right when I
Oh,
popped out. I know
Yeah, I
you're
just
you're
popped.
watching the stream. You're on a couple second delay, and here's another overturned truck. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yes. Thanks, George. But if I had to take my best
If you had to
guess,
take your guess, why is Ethan here?
the reason why Ethan is here,
Mm-hmm.
they take his daughter because she might be infected, right? That's my assumption.
That is why Chris grabbed his daughter. Yes.
Right.
The assumption is there's something wrong with his daughter. His wife is still dangerous because we are under the assumption that Chris is still the force of good.
Right. Yeah, that did seem I didn't get the impression that Chris was like this huge, horrible bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wasn't very nice, but the way he like completely blew his wife's face off, but he still didn't seem like that bad of a guy in the world of Resident Evil. So
Right.
I just wish they're doing a very good job of denying me some information, because like there would be so much information you could get if we knew that Ethan was not in the same car as his daughter, for example.
Right.
For all
Because
I-
then
for
the
all I-
idea would be that his daughter got through and he didn't. Although we
Right.
did see with the overturned car, it was just him and one agent. And there was a report that said who was assigned to what car. So the assumption is that the daughter is out there in some capacity.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. So we get this familial bond at the beginning of the story particularly with the daughter character, which is kind of just like the thing that the protagonist chase. I mean, not to be like cold or anything, but it's, it could be replaced. It could be a dog.
No, absolutely. We're that's not cold. That's just functional for the story. They did a great job of making a father-daughter relationship.
Yeah, no, they did.
But in a functional sense, it could be replaced with a dog.
Yeah, totally. So if they're trying to do that, if they're trying to establish this, then why take her to a fantasy land? Fantasyland, because previous thing was a biohazard weapon.
Would you like my theories?
Yeah, go ahead and do some of your more advanced theories.
So number one is Capcom wanted to make a sequel to Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 7 did very well. They smashed the two together. There's no further reason. second sequel was reverse engineering, so they read the daughter the story. The daughter was with the mother. The daughter ran off by herself and was punished in that story. That doesn't exactly translate to what's going on here, but you are exploring what is essentially that fairy tale come to life in real graphic horror, what that looks like if it was real.
Yeah.
No greater meaning than wouldn't that be neat? That's kind of where I'm at.
Not a chance. There's definitely no way.
I'm a little cynical. I'm a little cynical that some of these themes they've set up are not going to pay off. I think the game is extraordinarily tight with its feelings of tension and horror, but so far I am not boldly confident the themes are going to pay off.
I mean, just accidentally. Like, there's got to be something. Like, there's no way that they didn't give a single thought to, like, well, let's start him in the house and then let's bring him to the magical castle in 20 minutes. Like, there's got to be. I mean, it was absolutely an Alice in Wonderland type rabbit hole stumble. We can agree on that, right? Like, they
without a doubt
intentionally did that. It wasn't like they were like, oh, damn it, we were trying to make The Godfather.
Let's do this instead, right? Whenever I'm trying to figure out a story, I always go back to the adage, what does the character need? So what does Ethan need at the beginning of the story? What does Mia need? And what does their daughter need?
Did they just run out of the house?
I mean, it's a good
Ethan
question.
is easy to answer. I feel like Ethan needs stability, he needs safety, and he needs to know more so than Mia, his daughter is safe and healthy. And that the trauma he experienced and Mia experienced will not affect their daughter.
Right.
Mia is concerned about their family when he was passed out with the phone, right? She's concerned about their family just being fine. She just wants everything to be fine. What does their daughter need? Well, their daughter's an infant. You're right.
Cocaine.
Right. The daughter does not need to be dangled as a prize for Ethan to go chase. And yet, I'm gonna shut up for a second because this is
Okay. Yeah, we can. I'll go quiet on it for a minute. We can just kind of admire.
No, friendly.
The environmental design of this game is like astounding. So.
right. That's why I'm not concerned about harping on that. I think some of these themes might not pay off because the initial story and the environmental design and all that such stuff is so absolutely brilliant.
Who is? What the hell was that? You have a gun? What? Please tell me you have a gun. No, why would I? Take it! Take it! Hey, are you listening? Hey! What?
Oh, no.
Shit!
That is concerning, isn't it, Toaster?
It is. It's very concerning.
Wait, there's more.
Okay, I came up with my answer.
Came up
I'll
with your
save
answer.
it, but I came up with my answer.
Well, real quick, I just want to tap into, so after that scene, I mean, we are literally dragged to hell.
Yeah, into a pit of bodies in this picaresque, well, hauntingly picaresque storybook city. Which is
And
what led
behind
to my
me, bags of garbage, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to go forward? Well, here's your reward for turning around.
bags of garbage, yep. Or body bags.
Could eat regardless. It's so
right.
what's your theory? What you got?
So the theory is, here's my theory. It's a good one.
I
We're
want
not
to
supposed
believe
to know
it.
yet.
Christ.
Okay.
That's my theory. So the reason, and this is This is
And
important.
we're not supposed to know what specifically.
We're not supposed to know why we're here yet.
We're not supposed to know why we're here yet. Gotcha.
Figuring out why we're here answers the question at the beginning. That's my
Right.
question, or that's my answer, because it's so out of place. It's so strange. It's so weird. Like you're in a normal house and then you're seemingly taken to a normal car. I mean, it's an armored car, but it's it's not like a spaceship. Oh, hello.
It's funny watching you on just that short delay.
Yeah. That was fucking creepy.
But this just absolutely grounded Carnage. Extremely effective. But eventually I can pinpoint a very specific point where I got desensitized.
Okay. I'm gonna have to play this game, I think. It actually looks just so cool.
And the major thing, I'm playing with keyboard even though I'm playing with a controller even though I'm on PC, just because managing my inventory and stuff is easier on a controller playing a game like this for me. Yeah. Even though a mouse would give me much better precision.
It's not intended though. You're supposed to be horribly inaccurate.
Right. What was I gonna say?
Kind of
Oh yeah, your hand, like that was just, yeah. And so now we have a gun. I've got 10 bullets left. I used half of them to kill one enemy.
Yeah. I think this is like the greatest thing that Resident Evil ever did, which just give you like no ammo and make the enemies takes too many bullets to kill.
Right, and there is an upgrade system for your weapons later. It takes a while before you get to that, several hours. So you're running through and you're kind of stuck at this kind of level of power for a while.
Yeah, I mean that's always like it's the narrative structure, right? Like as you master the environment, dealing with the enemies in that environment becomes easier. And
right, and like even though you really get to a pretty reasonably powerful state where things are still dangerous and you're still concerned, but you can do okay if you keep your head, you have the memory of this section of the game burned into your mind. Right. So even if there's not as much tension, even if you have 20 shotgun shells going into a fight, you know what can happen. You know where you can fall to, so you've got that tension.
Yeah. But yeah, so daughter trapped in a fairy book land is a very interesting idea. I think it has something to do with, so if it's a dark fairy tale.
It is.
And fairy tales are kind of meant to separate yourself from reality so that you can go to the land of morality and kind of learn things.
And it's also a father-daughter story specifically.
Right. And it's going to be a dark fairy tale. And so
well, I mean, look what's happened to me so far after being here for a couple seconds.
See, okay,
what's happening to an infant?
So here's the thing that's interesting though. So like, we talked about how they long for stability, right? Like they long for this like perfect happy family, and then that shit gets cut out real quick, and then their daughter is taken to presumably a perfect happy family world, right? Like a land of fairy tale. And so now,
family is the antagonists are a family.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that.
See, I told you there was a reason.
But
I told you there's always a reason. You just have to get all weird and artsy-fartsy with me, and then you'll figure it out.
And so we're in our first defense set piece. It taught me how to barricade a room. You're moving a lot through really well-designed areas to have your fight, and it's a lot of trying to figure out how to get into the best defensible position. Yeah, at least in these big open areas.
Okay, green chat. When a game is built to allow you to get good at it, then you can eliminate some of the tension. Yeah, definitely.
Well, yeah, I'm already playing this so differently than when I first started shit.
Yeah. I love how the game shows how dangerous one enemy can be, then they just escalate the dangers. Yeah.
Oh, right, almost immediately.
That was uncomfortable.
Shit. And just the fact that I clear my first enemy and then this guy drops behind me from the ceiling, right where I already had a traumatic incident and fell through the floor.
Yeah. Is half your hand still gone?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
just something Ethan lives with. The whole game.
Over?
And apparently, this might be a little spoilery, but two justifications it gives are that when Ethan ran through the events of Resident Evil 7, he consumed some of the spores from whatever was infecting them, and he has a bit of the lasting effect on him, so he has kind of this superior healing. That's why he gets ripped up, beaten up, and like stabbed pretty horribly in 7 and 8, and he can just keep going. It's because that's the justification. And the other for why he's much better in combat is a throwaway line from the beginning when he's at dinner with Mia and he mentions his combat training with Chris.
Gotcha.
So take that for what you will, and you can tell, right, the game is not concerned, so why should you be? Just shut up, idiot, enjoy your game. And here's this spooky guy telling me not to go through here.
I never really have questioned that kind of thing. And like in other games, I don't know. In Call of Duty, I've taken 800 rounds to the chest.
And then you
I'm
just
like,
sit for
my
a second and
screen's
you're
red.
fine.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
Absolutely.
It reminds me of something. We'll get back to Resident Evil in a sec, but just as an aside,
Yeah.
did you ever play the game Brothers in Arms Hell Highway?
I have not.
It was a pretty cool game. I mean, I was a pretty big military history buff when I was a kid, especially World War II history. So I was into that. Like, that was a golden era for me because there was just like hundreds of World War II shooters. But anyway.
Right, that was like the genre. Now it's all
Oh my
like
God.
modern military.
Yeah. But the thing that it was interesting about Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway was it still had that regenerative health aspect. Like the screen kind of goes red. If it gets too red, well, then you're dead now. But
Yeah.
the thing that they did a really good job with is it wasn't taking too many rounds which magically Wolverine heal. It
Yeah.
was the percentage chance likelihood of being shot.
Oh.
Like if
That's
you spent too
unique.
long out of cover, your screen was going red because the enemy was taking aim on you. And the longer time you spent outside of cover, the more likely you were to die.
That's
so
a
I actually really like
fun
that.
system.
Yeah.
That's really useful.
Yeah,
I would
it was-
much
it was-
rather play that where a bullet is really a bullet and you are screwed if you get shot.
Yeah.
But there's this system. God damn it, they just broke through the barrier.
Lucky Archer says, you can already see how Ethan is better at reloading his pistol compared to RE7.
Right. When he holds it with 2 mags, and here's a fun thing they have. You can create a cover for yourself.
I like how they give you just enough time so that you can kind of maneuver these new areas around.
Right before I was attacked.
Right.
Shit. Well, I'm out of ammo. Just gotta live with that now. I want to finish him because he might drop some. No, just some money. Ah, ha, ha. Come on. I can't remember if there's any...
This is their gameplay loop, right? Like the gameplay
Yeah.
loop is kind of like encounter enemies, go into buildings, figure out how to barricade them, do what you can to fight them off from your barricades. They break through,
Right.
move through new plays, barricade it.
Loot, scrap. Yeah, you're constantly moving, which is very
Yeah.
similar to Resident Evil 4. And here I just found, just for crossing this area, I need to heal. Which, use it in game. No break. No cutting. I think there's something in here. There's like shotgun shells, yeah, which I really need. And an exploding barrel. Always when I need you, you're there for me, Exploding Barrel.
Was this how other Resident Evil games were? Because like I said, I only played.
Yes
whatever
and
one with
no.
multiplayer.
Oh god, that guy is very large. That's a large hammer man.
Holy shit. Because this is
Shit.
like this is brilliant. What?
Yeah.
What this,
Oh, nope. No escape. Oh god. I can shoot him to get past him, stun him for a second. Now, I don't remember how I got through this last time, because this is brutal. I'm out of hell.
this game is just scintillating at the moment. It is.
Right.
This is perfection in design. I am so impressed. I always love in games when they set up the AI to be exactly perfect. So
And that's it.
Oh, you're dead now?
You are dead.
Like actually dead?
The game over. Like game over.
Oh, like game over. Okay.
Yeah. I think it'll pick me up right from the start of this encounter. This took me a couple times on a normal difficulty. I don't know if you need to dispatch a certain number of enemies or if it's a time thing. I have literally no idea how I got through this part of the game. Because, like, as you can see, like, I'm playing better than I was before. I'm snappier. I know where items are. And I still got... wrecked. Like...
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I was so impressed with that whole thing. Like, I was just amazed that we were running through this, like, this horrible village. And, like, I was like, oh, I wonder if he can go... Oh, he can. Oh, I wonder if he can... Oh, he can. Oh, are they gonna... Oh, they are. Like, I was just so impressed every moment of, like, I can't believe that this is something that happens in this game.
Yeah.
That's super impressive. Because that's just... All that is just trigger zones and artificial intelligence acting, like, designed so perfectly well that the game... It didn't need to do anything. It didn't need to have a cutscene. It didn't need to have, dialogue. All it needed to do was just let the AI corner you, funnel you into a really disadvantageous position,
Right.
and then take advantage of it.
And there was one guy waiting for me on the path out, and so it's this nice dance of, like, I can use one bullet, stun a guy, and run past, or I could let him bite me.
Right.
Either way, you've got these two resources. You've got to make a decision.
Right. Yeah. Like, do I need to save that ammo for something else? Am I really in such dire straits that I can't just take the bike and go?
Right.
But it just, like, I mean, you were acting purely on survival instinct. I mean, I don't think that you were making the calculations of, like, well, there's in 30 feet, I should be able to go through the window. I mean, it was very much like...
No, I just turned around because I knew that spot was no longer safe to be in.
Right. It was like,
and then I went for the window, and there was a guy climbing through the window. And I'm like, okay, there was just a guy. I'm probably safe. And there was one standing there waiting for me.
Right, yeah. And so, like, acting on survival instinct...
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some computer men running around with computer brains. I mean, that's just, like, crazy. That's nuts. That's a feat.
Right. And, like, even though I died, what a good story that turned out to be of me trying to get through. And the way I died, I didn't just get wrecked. I held a position. I ran. I got in that other room. I hit a high moment where I got more resources. And then... And then...
Right. Well, and then the death, itself was not kind of like, oh, and then I got cornered by the weird AI and the clunky...
No, I got out. I got out, and I was just out of resources, and then they just caught me.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's cool. That's just super... Like, that makes me want to play it, because it's so cool.
You really should. I mean, this is one of the better games I have ever played.
Yeah. Yep. Toaster Shooter says, and you rarely do make those kind of calculated evaluations in horror situations. No, you do not. No, you don't.
And a good horror fight like this doesn't give you time to think. That's
no.
right.
Which is good. I mean, like that means that the game is singing, right? Like it is, all the parts are harmonizing very well. We got Fleet Foxes up in here. It's so harmonized. So
Yeah.
it's
And like even if I were to try again, I'm not confident I would do much better. It would
right.
take a lot of, okay, I'm going to do a playthrough and I'm just going to run around the environment and see what I'm missing. Try and
Mm.
find all the resources, and once I feel confident I know the area and the resources, I would give it a serious shot. But
Right, right,
like that trial and error is fun. Right?
right.
It's
Well,
not fun to fail.
right. It's
Or
not
it's
fun to
not
fail, but
it is
it's,
fun to fail rather.
oh, I see what you're saying. But
Yeah.
so, and to bring it back to kind of the narrative perspective on that too, we gotta probably head out here in a sec. But
Yeah.
bring it back to the narrative perspective. I mean, I said a little bit earlier that it was clear to me that this narrative was going to be something about mastering the environment, right? This new kind of
Ah.
fantastical, very
Yep.
strange environment, and you're going to have to do it. I mean, that much was clear, especially because the environmental storytelling was so present, the environmental action sequences are so present. Like the game
Yep.
itself is not so much about shooting as it is getting yourself into a good position from which to shoot. You know?
Yeah,
Um,
and understanding your environment to locate its resources for
right,
survival.
right. Right, which is like so like John Carter. I mean, this is a weird ass example, but like John
Yeah.
Carter or Mars. John Carter lands on Mars. He doesn't know anything about it, and that whole
Yeah.
narrative is about him mastering that. Right.
Right.
That's the whole narrative. So it has its structural lineage. I mean, it goes back before John Carter, but
Yeah.
it has a structural lineage of like a horror narrative about mastering one's environment. And in that regard, and it's got its themes. It's got its fantastical themes. It's going to be perfect. I mean, it's a recipe for beautifulness. Like everything I saw, that I was like, this is awesome.
You
This
know,
is
off
so
of what
good.
you're saying, that reminds me. So I am past the initial village, and I've gotten into the first. I want to call it a dungeon. That's kind of essentially what it is
Sure.
as far as like game design. Um, and I'm interacting with the first antagonist. I am in their house, and I'm
Hmm.
running around this mansion, this castle, um, as a stranger in their environment, trying to survive, trying to not be seen, being
Right.
stalked by something stronger than me. I am an interloper in their space, and the game is the main challenge now is find your way around, collect items to access
Hmm.
more of this space, master this space, right? Um, so that's just really right in line with what you're saying now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I think we should play this next week, and I know that I'm sure that Cleveland has played it. So
Yeah.
maybe we can actually finally get him back on.
Yeah, and
But
so this is me just hopping in playing from the beginning because we do a lot of beginnings here, and I wanted to
right,
talk
right.
about prologues as well,
I think it was a good
but
prologue. It was a good choice to bring
it's
that
a
in.
very good prologue. Next week, I'm totally down to play more Resident Evil. Um, we can just hop in. I'm not even going to save here. We can just hop in
Yeah.
an interesting part of my playthrough.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what I
I'll
was
keep a
thinking.
couple save files, and I'll keep running through the game. And when I encounter a really interesting space, I'll mark that
Yeah,
save,
just
and we'll
save
continue
it.
from
Yeah.
there.
Note it.
But
Cool. Yeah, sounds
also
good.
on the horizon, for anyone who's like me, who's also been playing, had a spoiled week of Nier Replicant, Resident Evil 8, and Mass Effect coming out on Friday. Very
All right.
much want to do Mass Effect. I decided to play Nier on a PlayStation, but that's one we could do in the future. But Mass Effect, definitely, we're going to do some streams of. But next week, Resident Evil, Mass Effect later.
Yeah, I think one of the things that could be. Oh, sorry, I let go of my
You
push
cut
to
out
talk
for a
button.
second.
Yeah. I think one of the things that could be really fun with Mass Effect is to do an episode on
Mhm.
the Citadel, that like from Mass Effect 1.
Just the Citadel,
Yeah,
yeah.
just the Citadel. Yeah.
Play through until get to that like opening moment where you
Yeah.
can first walk around, and
Yeah. Because the
because
Citadel
that I
is
want
like,
to talk about sci-fi world building. I want to talk about the races, the technology. You know,
right,
like
right. Yeah. Well, and
yeah,
also just how you come to understand that place. I mean, it's just like
as a
Like at
living
first you're like,
space.
you're overwhelmed. You're like, oh, I'm just this little human. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And then like by the end, you're like, oh, I gotta go see that guy. He's over here.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, no, when I played Mass Effect 1, the Citadel just blew my mind. That was an environment I wanted to like live in. It was
weird,
so
man.
so cool.
because when that game came out, I was all about like shooting the bullets at the dudes with the blood. You know, like that was
Gotcha.
the thing that I wanted to do in the games. And then I remember
Yeah.
hitting the Citadel for the very first time, and I was like, I just found myself just walking around. I was like, what?
Yeah.
This is so counter to like how I've ever played at games up to this point. So, yeah, that's worth doing something.
Yeah, Toaster. I know some stuff in Mass Effect. The conversations feel a lot more stilted than they did in 2008. It was a lot more impressive. And the funny thing, just to give a preview of my opinion, stuff like KOTOR and KOTOR 2 was Knights of the Old Republic, made by BioWare as well, was more dynamic, more interesting than a lot of the stuff that happened in Mass Effect. And then I feel like at times they did better in Dragon Age as well. Mass Effect, the Paragon and Renegade, this is a conversation that exists. I'm just treading on ground.
Oh man, I bring up Paragon and Renegade like
binary, right? Is just it's so limiting, and Mass Effect is cool, and they tried to do things in that space. I'm concerned that we won't really say too much new, but I think what we could do is instead of talking about the systemic conversations, talk about the actual writing. Because even though a conversation is stilted or forced or funneled to one direction or the other, is the writing good? Where do we get the world building? Where do we get the characters?
Yeah, I get, because we could definitely go over world building in their dialogue. It's like that's something that I'm a big fan of, just that in general. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say I'm so glad that they didn't sit down and explain to me how the international courts work or the intergalactic courts. Like I'll say
you
something
get either
more.
the documents or you ask someone about a specific topic.
Right. But yeah, so that's brilliant. I'm probably just going to buy that because that's really fucking cool. Resident Evil, I mean. And yeah.
And I slept on this series. Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games. 5 was a fun multiplayer shooter, terrible Resident Evil game. 6 was some hot garbage, and 7 was a little too torture porny for me. But this nails it. The schlocky antagonist that you haven't seen yet, Dylan. The Resident Evil 4 game design, like... Village is it. Village is firing on all cylinders at all times.
Very cool. So, just so everybody's
the franchise peaked with Jill Sandwich. That was early, Toaster. This has been a slow decline if that's the case.
So, quick things that we want to cover before we leave. Jam's almost done. 3 days, as we said at the beginning of the stream. No, 2 days. 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 days until it's done. Then we'll have the initial voting period where everybody gets to vote on all the games, and I'm presuming.
And is that a week to vote? If I recall,
think it's a week. Yeah, it's a week to vote. So everybody will go in and play, and then we'll take the results, and then we'll play the top games, best of each category, and the best 6. I think we might end up going up to 15 games, depending on how many submissions we get.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, it depends on time. We'll take probably the top. We'll definitely play the top of each category. If the runner-up is a repeat, we might bump one down the list, and we'll see how many games.
Right.
And we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep, that's what we'll do. So we'll be playing those games on stream, not next week, but the following week.
Right, and we could always rapid-fire some honorable mentions.
True. Yeah, right. Absolutely. So everybody who's not joined the jam, if you still want to, you can go join it just to vote. So if you just want to
Yep.
play games and you don't want to submit, that's fine. You can just go and join the jam and play them and vote them.
Which
Right.
please do. These are
Yeah, that'd be
free
great.
games made by amazing artists.
I know,
This
it's
is
awesome.
this is like the most current interesting thing that could be happening in your
It's
life.
so cool. It's so cool. And like my game, well, not my game. The game that I wrote for is going to be in there. The game that
Yeah.
Two Links made that I wrote
There you
a
go.
Word document for, and then helped him make sprite animations, and I made the sounds. That's going to be in there, so you can play a game written by the one and only. And
We'll have
then
to
Two
put
Links had to change
aside
a lot of it.
our all issues of fairness and try to judge that on equal footing.
Well,
No
if it
advantages,
wins any
just because
category,
Dylan's
it's
involved.
because of Two Links. It has nothing
Good.
to do.
There we go.
With me. It's all because
Yes,
of
you
Two
just
Links.
contributed.
Yeah, I was Quentin Tarantino on whatever Sin City. You know, like I had
was
nothing
there.
to do with it.
Yeah.
My name's on it. So yeah, jam deadline's coming up. It's a very current thing that is happening. Look at it. Yes. So we do all that, and it's going to be fun. So 2 weeks from today, we'll be playing games. That's my
Yes. We'll be
That's my
playing jam games in 2 weeks.
Yep. Or it might actually be 3 weeks, because if it ends on Friday, they have a week. That'll be a week.
Oh, so this Friday, submissions
Friday,
and
jam
voting
ends.
probably runs until next Friday.
No, we could still
So-
play games.
Can we? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah,
you
because
think.
if voting ends next Friday, then we can play games 2 weeks from today, not 3 weeks. 2
Yeah,
weeks.
Lucky Archer, the game jam. We are gonna play the winners of our jam, that the Neophyte Studios Itch narrative game jam. We're gonna play them on stream, and then we throw all of our VODs up on our YouTube.
Yep.
So if you can't catch it live, it will be archived, just like everything we do. But good on you for catching the stream, and you should continue to do that, even
You
though
should
you can
continue.
watch it later.
Yeah, you should watch it live and then watch it later.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you're the Tim Burton to Henry Selick's Nightmare Before Christmas. Absolutely. I mean, that's the greatest compliment I could have ever received.
One other thing though, if why stop at just watching the games? Go play them. Go over to itch.io, make an account, join the jam. You can vote. Our jam is listed on the jam page. You could probably find it through like Neophyte Studios, narrative game jam, and
I just posted
there's
in the
the
chat.
link.
I just posted in the chat.
So even if you're watching this later, you can just copy down that link and hop over to our third game jam, and play all the games as they come out and decide for yourself. Because the best part of our conversation is hearing what you guys think, whether you agree with us, disagree with us. I love it.
Toaster Shooter is great. Yeah, no, I'm glad this summer's in gear, because now we can do stuff, which will be fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, I gotta go. So I will catch everybody later. I'll be in the Discord as usual, but I gotta, Two Links.
Oh yeah,
is like
join the
on-
Discord. Do that. Join
Oh
it.
yeah, join the Discord.
Chat with us. All the
There's
things.
a link to the
Plug all the
Discord on the
things.
itch page, so you can follow the itch link, and then you.
There's
scroll to the
link
bottom.
to the Discord on the Twitch page.
Are you serious? Are you telling
There
me
we-
the truth? Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, you can get all to all of our stuff from either YouTube or Twitch.
That's
Those are
amazing.
kind of our hubs.
Okay, let's
I
stop
know.
shamelessly just plugging. Have a
As
good
if
one.
anyone's gonna watch this far
Yeah, right.
later.
All right,
This is
bye-bye.
just for you guys today. See ya.